not afraid.
Then come out.
Then you'll be afraid.
Welcome to episode 16 of Popcorn and Prosecco, a show of 30 minutes of nonstop movie talk. This week we're talking about We Are the Best, Night Moves, and Maleficent. I'm Perri Nemiroff, and here are my co-hosts, Kristy, Puchko, and Angie in that order.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
That helped, right? A little less awkward. Yeah. All right. So we're kicking things off with We Are the Best today, and Kristy's going to handle that one.
Okay, so We Are the Best is a Swedish independent drama about three 13-year-old girls named Clara, Hedvig, and Bobo. And they live in 1982 Stockholm. And they love punk music, even though punk music is considered to be decidedly not cool anymore. They don't care. They love it, and they're friends, and they're going to form a band. And it's a very sweet movie. It's actually directed by Lukas Moodysson, who previously did Show Me Love, and I'm forgetting the other one.
He did Together.
Oh, yeah, Together and Lila Forever. So he's kind of known for doing these kind of really authentic and compelling dramas. And this one is actually based on a graphic novel his wife Coco wrote called Never Good Night, which was about her own childhood as like a angry little punk in the 80s. And I love this movie. Like, it's called We Are the Best because the three girls, no matter the evidence against them, believe they are the best. And it's
like the fact that they don't actually know how to play any instruments when they start this one.
Well, it's like it starts off with Clara and Bobo, and Clara is the one who has the mohawk in the poster, and she and I basically sort of have the same haircut. And Bobo is the one with the glasses, and they're best friends, but like they decide they're going to start a band as an act of rebellion. It's not even necessarily they want to make music. It's more just their way of sticking it to these annoying guys that are irritating them at the activity center. So they start figuring out this band, and then they actually meet a girl who knows how to play classical guitar, but she's a Christian, and Clara's like, she believes in God. It is like very like hung up on that. But they invite her in, and in that way that happens when you're at that age, you know, it doesn't really matter if you have common interests because you can figure out something. And so they bring her in, and she starts getting into punk, and Hedvig becomes a part of the group. And it's about them kind of learning how to deal with boys and learning how to be a band, sort of, and basically just about what kind of shit it is being 13. And I think it's really fantastically done. I think it's smart and funny, and it doesn't sentimentalize being 13. And it doesn't over-dramatize it. Like, it almost feels like a documentary to me because it's just so earnest, and these kids' performances are so authentic, and I really loved watching it.
It's funny seeing this after seeing Blended, when we had that one girl character in Blended where it's like, you're a tomboy, but you are not allowed to be that way. You must dress like a girly girl, whereas the three girls here, like, they just believe in who they are, and, like, nothing's going to change that at all. And, like, even when they are going after the boys, it's not like they completely change their personality. They're still the same people, and they're still the same friends, have the same relationship. It's just like, all right, like, she put on a little makeup. It's totally reasonable.
And it's really a little. It's like if you look, you're like, oh, yeah, you put on mascara, Clara. I like rhymes.
I like her hair. If I had the nerve, I would do that.
I like Hedvig's hair. She has the best hair. The blonde
She's the coolest. I love her transformation in this movie.
And that's the thing. It's such a cool movie about, like, three characters who actually do grow over the course of a movie, and it doesn't feel like a John Hughes kind of fake, you know, this is how movies today we mature. Like, their battles and their struggles feel really real and believable and relatable. And, like,
and fun. This is like one of those movies where you could look back and be like, oh, I loved the part when they did this, this, and this, and this. And there's just so many things that I can actually think of off the top of my head. I wanted to reference the scene where they got drunk. I was, like, very amused by that whole sequence.
I just watched the whole thing with, like, a smile on my face. And it made me sad that we decided to launch a Popcorn and Prosecco podcast instead of a punk band. We should have started a punk band instead, you guys.
Well, speaking of their punk music, they have a song in it called We Hate Sport, or Abort
Hate the Sport.
Hate the Sport. Which is like, because they hate gym class, which, okay. And actually, we were at a screening last singing this song together because that's just this movie just makes you want to be these girls. Like, and it's funny because, like we said, they're not especially talented. They're not, like, the most popular girls. They're not traditionally beautiful, but they're mesmerizing and fun. And
It's like
you
they
know,
don't care, but they care just enough to make it believable and relatable.
Yeah.
I mean, you said that, like, it makes you want to, like, be like the girls, but, like, I feel like it's more that I felt like I was these girls, and I wasn't a punk growing up. Like, I had no aspirations of starting a band. I wasn't that rebellious, but, like, he really just absolutely gets, like, the weird, like, aimless kind of, like, angst, but also fun of being 13.
Your
thought,
haircut, your new haircut is too nice to make me think that you were like them when you were a kid.
Me?
It'd be, like, lopsided if that was the case.
No, I wasn't. I was not a rebellious
Tilt
kid
your
at all.
head.
But, like, I mean, I feel like you still, like, I still understand. Like, I remember being 13 and, like, having friends and just getting up to, like, stupid random shit because you don't really have anything to do because you're 13. And I remember, like, how confusing it was to, like, try to figure out who you are. And this is really, like, there's no real plot in this movie. It's more like a hangout movie, I guess, kind of like Only Lovers Left Alive or something, where it's just like a chance to spend a bit of time with these characters who are just like really fun and just like hang out with them.
Normally I get frustrated by that too, when there's no like end goal that like a narrative is pushing towards. That's when I tend to get bored and I'm like, all right, what's the point? But here, the three of them are just such a pleasure and so much fun to spend time with that, I mean, this movie could have had another hour on it and I probably would have been fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was really surprised because when I sat down to write my review, I was like, the plot is.
There's no real plot other than three girls get together and start a band. Like, that's the entire plot.
And
like, I guess the closest thing.
Driving
It's like when they said about the school show, I thought that was gonna be one of those movies. Like,
Sure.
it was
Yeah.
at that point
Like
when
School
the
of
show
Rock or
came and
something.
they stuck it to everybody, but like, that doesn't happen. And in fact, they like nix that whole idea very early on in the movie too.
Yeah, but you don't feel like you're led astray. It's like we said, it feels very much like being a teenager where something seems really important for a second and then you're like, well, forget that. I'm paying attention to this now.
There's so much of that in this movie because, like, insofar as there are plot points, it's just that, like, something will happen and people will be like, they'll freak out about it for 2 minutes and then, like, they move on because that's what happens when you're 13 and when your problems are the kind of problems that these girls have, which are not serious problems. They're not, like, dying or anything,
Like,
They're
every time Clara's parents...
like teen problems.
Yeah, like
Claire being embarrassed by her parents.
Because, like, poor Bobo has, like, a single mom that doesn't know how to be a mom, but, like, Clara's parents just want to be involved in her life, and they're like, let us jam with you! And she's like, no! And it's so adorable. I like watching this, and, like, I wasn't a punk kid growing up either, but, like...
Your hair is more believably punk than mine, but
well, now, but, I went to Catholic school. I would have gotten in a lot of trouble for this. That's like there are regulations about how girls have to behave, and but yeah, I actually really loved it, and there were moments that I related to every one of the characters and what they were dealing with, and I like that a lot. But I do
those performances were outstanding. Those kids are incredible. I mean, maybe it's just because they were talking in another language, and it always seems like there's more dialogue to me when something is in a foreign language. Like, it wasn't just about like being a kid and playing around.
Yeah.
Like, especially Clara. She like gave some really like detailed speeches, and I believed every word that came out of her mouth.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the ways
really
that
got to me with her little quiet, sad faces.
That's one of the ways that, like,
quite a few of them.
You were saying that the movie is kind of like a documentary, and it's partly because the performances are so naturalistic. I think that actually none of them were very experienced actresses when they signed on. I think only one of them had, like, other movies that they'd done before.
Yeah.
And it really just feels like you're watching these three kids just, like, hang out and be themselves, and you're just kind of along for the ride. I don't know. I just thoroughly love this movie. I think that it made me feel really nostalgic without making me want to, like, sentimentalize or, like, put, like, my teen years on a pedestal. Like, it gets what kind of sucks about being a kid, but it also gets at, like, what's kind of fun, and it captures that really unique time in your life when you're, like, old enough that you're, like, testing the boundaries, but young enough that you can't really do anything. I don't know.
It makes you experience it all, but then be able to isolate what really matters. And that's what's really heartwarming, and that's what makes you look back and be like, oh, I appreciate this, that, and that now.
So one final question. In the vein of like a BuzzFeed quiz, which of these three girls are you? Are you Hedwig,
I was waiting.
Bobo, or Clara?
I knew someone was going
to.
to bring that up. I think I have to be Bobo, but like you said, I feel like there were parts where I could see myself in all of them.
Yeah, I think I would lean towards that too, because Clara's a little too over the top for me, but I mean probably not Hedwig because she's like a really talented musician, and like
Okay, well, not that
the
much.
whole religious
so
aspect
reserved.
of it too. Like, I did not have that growing up at all, so that part I related to less.
I totally related to Bobo feeling invisible of boys, because like I was the total tomboy that like had a lot of guy friends, but then the guys were like, "So your best friend Emily's really hot," and I was like, "Great, awesome." But I think personality-wise, I am Clara, because she
Yes,
is
you are.
loud and she has opinions, and everyone will know them. And watching that, I was a little bit like, "Oh, I know that girl."
And your hair.
Also, that I did after
There's
watching
the
this, I did go
Halloween
shorter on the
costume.
sides.
If
Yeah.
you guys don't watch Orphan Black in time, that's what we will do. We will
We'll
be that.
cosplay.
Does that mean that
That'll be
Kristy
the
and I get to
costume
go to
that
Perry's
nobody
house
knows
and
what
cut
we
our hair?
are. I'm not cutting.
I
my
did.
hair.
I cut my hair shorter after watching We Are the Best. It's been short on the sides, but I did go shorter because I was like, Clara makes that work, and so yeah, I did. I cut it the day after I saw We Are the Best.
All right. So what are we saying about this one? I say go for it. I loved
Absolutely.
it. It's adorable. Made me happy.
Seek this out. It's a lot of fun.
Yes, I love this movie. It's really just like uplifting and heartwarming and cheerful without being, sappy or like uplifting, So, yes, go for it.
Now, actually, before we get into night moves, which I'm going to shit all over, just so I can have a happier moment, I'm wearing the shirt. I'm wearing
I wondered about.
Samuel L. Jackson is coming into view. You just rose out from the bottom of my screen. But see, I have it.
You
and
look
I'm
like you were
wearing it.
levitating because of the angle you were trying to.
Yeah.
It's because, as I was doing that, my chair was, slipping out from under me, and that would have been, a great YouTube quality blooper if I just fell on the
If
floor.
you had biffed it and fallen backwards.
I almost wish that would happen, because that would have been even better
The
than
two of us would have reached out and been like, "No!" and it wouldn't have mattered.
Nothing would have happened.
Samuel L. Jackson is a special guest in this episode of Popcorn and Prosecco.
Yeah. If someone didn't fall last weekend, nobody's falling today.
We all
anyway.
stayed planted in the couch.
Yeah.
Had that episode gone on any longer.
It's 'cause that couch, sucks you in, so you can't move. All right, so now on to this movie that clearly I don't like, Night Moves. It is about 3 environmentalists. One is played by Jesse Eisenberg, the other is Dakota Fanning, and they're kind of dating, they're a couple-ish, and they want to blow up a dam. And in order to do that, they enlist in the help of Peter Sarsgaard's character, who is ex-military, Navy, Marine, something like that.
Yeah.
And together, they are going to go out and they're going to blow up a dam, and it's going to make everybody realize, oh, we shouldn't do all these bad things for the environment, and it's going to make a big difference and change the world. It's so freaking boring. The big thing about this movie is that they're going to blow up a dam. That is what the whole first hour is about, is putting together all these pieces, and that's what they're going to do, and it's going to make a difference, and they all believe in it. And then they get there, and they blow up the dam, and we can't even see it. That's, at that point, when we don't see the dam actually blow up, I'm like, all right, I'm checking out. This is not for me. And, that's just what it was. But I don't think any of her movies are for me. It's slow. I don't like when my movies, I don't need to be spoon-fed exposition by any means, but I don't like when a movie relies on me to build the characters in the story. That's not my job. I want to be told an interesting story that someone else has put the effort into coming up with, and I want to feel what the characters are feeling, and I want to understand what their motivations are. When all of that is left to me to figure out, you're not going to hold my attention. And the fact that this movie moves at a snail's pace didn't help that either.
It is very slow, and it's true that she doesn't really provide that much backstory, but I think that
right?
Yes.
Oh,
I think that the performance
Big Joy, Wendy and Lucy, all those. Meek's
Right.
cut off.
I think that the performances do a really good job of, conveying who these people are and where they're coming from, and it's I don't know. I guess I hear what you're saying about the explosion thing, but that didn't bother me at all. It never even crossed my mind that I was like, I wish we could have seen that, because it's not really about the explosion itself. It's about these characters and what happens to them before and after.
I might not
So
have
that
phrased
wasn't
that
that weird to
properly.
me.
It wasn't the explosion wasn't a terrible thing. That was kind of just the last straw. I was trying so hard to get behind what they wanted and what they were fighting for, but we just don't get it. Why are they doing that? Why do they care so much? They never actually say why they're so invested in this cause and why they're willing to potentially ruin their lives to go to that extent and do that. We never
So it's
get
taken for
inside their
granted
heads
that
at
you would
all.
understand that? Is that the idea?
You just like
Yeah.
when you go into the movie, it's already established that like these characters are extremists, and she never really explains why. Like she never lays out a backstory. She does establish that they're really into the environment. Like Jesse Eisenberg works at like a co-op farm or something, and Dakota Fanning works. I don't even know. She works at like
She
some kind
works
of.
at like a freaking spa.
Yeah. So but you kind of get her
And,
thing
like,
is that she's kind of
Peter
like the
Sarsgaard-
spoiled.
Peter
She's kind of-
Sarsgaard's character is just in for it, like, for the thrill. Like, how are you supposed to get behind that?
I don't know. That part didn't bother me that much. I do think that I don't think you're necessarily supposed to like agree with them or anything. Like I think part of the thing in the movie is like you're watching it and you're watching this happen and then you realize how little of a difference it made and how much it ruined their lives, and I think that's kind of the point of the movie.
I get that, and I do respect that to a point, but at the same time, it's like when you're sitting, especially when it's a very slow movie, when you are putting the effort into, like, having something hold your attention enough and try to understand it, and, like, that's the result, it's like, oh, what's the point of this? And, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but where the movie ended, I was, like, angry and not satisfied at all there. At all. It was just so frustrating that I sat through a 2-hour movie and then got that at the end. It just really got me crazy. And this movie, this pace in particular, I got sleepy. Like when it came to the time, especially with the big explosion, actually, my eyelids got really freaking heavy, and I just couldn't keep my eyes open anymore. The one time I did kind of like it, though, and I was getting a little invested, is when we go home with Jesse Eisenberg and we're back to that farm he's working on, and you see the family dynamic, and you see people connecting and caring about each other and smiling. Like, that is the only part in the movie that anybody smiles, and it's never our three leads. They smile.
That is true.
No.
And I agree that it's very slow, but I think that she does a really good job of building the tension. So to me, even though it was really slow paced, like that made it interesting. For me, the part that the movie went a little, I liked it in general, and not a lot, but I didn't love it, but I liked it in general. I definitely liked it more than you did. But the part to me that went a little bit off the rails was the ending, where things take a turn without giving too much away, they kind of take a turn for the melodramatic, and it was just
It turns
like,
into another movie.
Really? Like, that's where this was
Oh, I
headed?
think
Like,
I heard about this. They get taken away by tree ants, right? The trees come to life. And
oh my God, Kristy, we spoil it for you.
Back to the tension, though.
this is what happens when I don't get
there's-
around to a movie. Sorry.
There's no tension in this movie. You can't have tension and suspense in a movie when you don't care about the characters or their mission. And that,
I don't know.
without that here, there was going to be no tension or suspense.
I cared about the mission insofar as I was curious what was going to happen to these characters, and to me, even though there wasn't that much backstory given for them, I had enough invested in the characters that I cared, and a lot of it comes down to their really interesting performances and like the weird dynamics between them. Jesse Eisenberg in particular, I thought was like really good. Usually he does that thing where like his characters get all anxious and talk really fast, but this one it's the opposite. He's very quiet and almost stoic. And
I thought I was sick of that typical Jesse Eisenberg, and this movie made me miss it. It's like he doesn't do any. I wonder what this script looked like. Other than Peter Sarsgaard's character, the rest of it was probably like, just like a big black page of description and like no dialogue. It's like, I want you to figure out what this moment means based on Dakota Fanning's reaction shot. Let's just sit on it for 2 minutes. That was another problem, is like all of her camera work. It's so freaking slow. I understand. I kind of do like it when people manage to capture a lot in one shot, because we're so used to just like quick cutting fancy nonsense, and she just like sits on a shot and she holds on it. But where it gets to like too much of an extreme is people, I don't know, let's say entering and exiting a shot. You don't need to see someone enter a shot, react to what somebody else just said, and then exit the shot too. Cut off those two sides of it. Like, we'll still get it. Your audience is smart. We could figure out where they're going, but that would have cut the running time by like a half hour in this movie. There's like
It's already
30
not that
minutes
long
of
of a
pointless
movie, is it?
footage. It's 2 hours.
Oh, I thought it was shorter than that.
It should have been shorter than that. I might have had more patience for it if it was shorter than that.
Anyway, I think though that like what you said earlier kind of hits the nail on the head of like why our reactions to it are fairly different, and it's that you didn't buy into the characters at all. You didn't care about them, and cared a little bit more about them than you did, and I think that's. It seems like that's the main
about
difference.
The people on the farm, like Aaliyah Shawkat's character and Logan Miller. I was like, all right, here are two people who like their family, they like what they're doing, and like they wanted to help Jesse Eisenberg's character in a way. Them I could get behind. The rest of it, no.
The characters are fun, but to me that part was also. I mean, that part was interesting because you see. When the movie starts out, it just kind of takes for granted that, like, you know, these people are, that Jesse Eisenberg is an extremist and that that's the world we're in, but you see kind of the different ways that these other people who have the same goals as he does deal with it, which is that they don't go around blowing up dams. In fact, they think it's pretty stupid that someone would do that. They don't know it was him. So that was interesting. I would have liked to see a little bit more of, like, the tension between, you know, his extremist ways and, like, the less extreme ways that, like, the people around him have.
I would have liked more information, period. This just felt like she handed everybody an outline and is like, you go do that now. Good luck. And, like, just left it at that. Not my kind of movie. I say definitely skip this. Really boring. A waste of 2 hours of my life. Might be in my worst of the year. It is definitely in my bottom 5 thus far.
Wow. This has been a rough couple of weeks for you.
Serious, like, what is wrong? Like, this, normally I'm, like, really open-minded and happy and positive in, like, every movie I've seen.
I know you've read your worst gov list a lot in the past 2 weeks. You're like, this is definitely up.
But, like, other than We Are the Best, every single movie I've seen since Godzilla I did not like. And kind of, like, I hated.
I don't know.
X-Men. I didn't hate X-Men, I just thought it was really
Spoiler
stupid.
alert for our next review.
Seriously.
I would say if you, I mean, I think it's that between what you've said about the movie and what I've said about the movie, it's pretty clear what the things are that people might like or dislike it. So basically, if you don't mind that it's a slow movie where there's not a lot of backstory and things kind of like move at a glacial pace, like if that sounds like your kind of thing, if you like her other movies, or if you just want to see Jesse Eisenberg do something different, then I think, you know, watch it. But I agree that it's not for everyone, and I can see how, you know, a lot of people might end up hating this movie.
Good luck to you if you go see it. Now on to another one that is making this weekend a very, very sad one. Angie, you want to take Maleficent?
Yes. So I guess I have the most complicated plot to explain this week.
Aren't you used to it by now?
No, because some weeks I don't. But anyway, Maleficent. All right, so I mean, the simplest way to explain it is that it's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty from Maleficent's perspective. Obviously, if you know anything about this movie, you already know that. But to get a little bit more specific, what happens is that, you know, there's like a human kingdom and a fairy kingdom, and Maleficent is the fairy king. It lives in the fairy kingdom, and she's like all happy, and she like communes with nature, and she's like beautiful, and everyone's a big fan of hers, and her life is so fucking wonderful. And then she makes like a friend and then this human comes into her realm, like a little boy, and they become friends, and I don't know. I don't want to get too much into spoilers because I'm not really sure what all the spoilers are, but eventually these two
give it away in the trailer, so I feel like you're okay to say, like...
Okay, well, they become friends, and then once they're but then they start to drift apart, and then once they're adults, he betrays her, and she has these, like, magnificent wings, which are, like, her favorite thing about herself or something, and he cuts them off, and this understandably makes her extremely upset, but not so understandably makes her decide to take her revenge on him in the most convoluted way possible, which is to wait until he becomes king, wait until he gets married and becomes king and has a daughter, and then wait for the daughter to have like a birthday party where she can show up, and then curse not him, but curse the baby, and not like, oh, I curse this baby to die right now, but like I curse this baby to live for 16 years and then not die, just
16?
Fall asleep.
Like, do they have sweet 16s in this realm? Is that where like a kid becomes an adult?
I think that it was supposed to be because Stefan and Maleficent kissed when she was 16.
But it's like the
how do you know that? They were 16 when they kissed.
They actually say that.
And
really?
then on her 16th birthday, he bestowed a kiss upon her, and like, you know.
Yes. Oh, you're right.
And
they did say that. There was a lot of information in that voiceover.
There's a lot.
It seems like a weirdly convoluted way to like get revenge on someone. And then not only does this kid, you know, so she doesn't die when she's 16, she just falls asleep. And the way she falls asleep is by pricking her finger on a needle, which again, why? I don't know. That's
finger
just
on a sewing needle
to come up with. Like, there's no sewing in this movie before that, so it's like not. It's like a weird detail
literally, like,
that has
do you
no
remember,
relevance to anything.
There's literally a shot where she's in and she's like, she's saying all the things, and she's actually saying the words from the original Sleeping Beauty, boom, the original Sleeping Beauty, until a point, and then they change it because that would be too mean for her to be like, pick her finger on a sewing needle and die. So instead she's like, pick her finger on it, and she looks around the court, and there's like a sewing
Is
needle.
that really why she comes up with sewing needle?
Isn't that what happened? Am I making
I didn't notice that.
You
like it
might
caught
be
her eye.
right. I'm pretty sure there was a cutaway, and that was why she got the idea.
I think so. I think that's what, because like I don't know why else that's in my head, but I remember that being the case.
And then on the at the
fall asleep, and I was like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, no, I don't know. And then at the end of the curse, she like basically is like, and no backsies, and like that becomes a plot point later on, and it's just like
That's basically the translation of, and nobody can lift this curse ever.
Exactly. Well, that's the frustrating thing, though, is that, like, in the original one, which everyone knows to the point where, like, they basically almost tried to shot-for-shot recreate it, and, like, Angelina Jolie tries to, like, intonally do the same pacing and everything. Like, they do the whole thing except for, of course, in this version, you had the fairies go, no, she won't die. She'll just fall asleep, and she can be saved by true love's kiss. But in this version, Maleficent says all of that, which is nonsensical as shit. Because if you were going to try to damage this guy, all the reasons that Andrew already said, that doesn't make sense. But additionally, you're going to, like, you're just going to put her to sleep, you're not going to kill her, and you're just going to give them an out of true love's kiss?
Even
like,
Angelina Jolie's performance in that moment and the pace of that scene makes it think like, you know, she was just like looking around and being like, and then I'm gonna make you do this, and then this. So it's like
bad
she was like
improv.
trying to come
oh,
up.
hey, this week we have a Perri impression instead of a Kristy impression. We are breaking new
Doesn't
ground in
happen
this
very
episode.
often.
Very
But then, so moving along with the plot, so she puts the curse on the baby, and King Stefan charges the three most incompetent fucking fairies in the land to take care of her. They're unsurprisingly horrible at this job, so she's prone to, so like baby Aurora is prone to just like fucking wandering off a cliff.
That's not a metaphor. She literally wanders off a cliff. That happens.
She's like a butterfly. I think actually at that age, or maybe it's one of the older ones. Anyway, sorry.
They
So
can't
she
even
sees a
figure out how to feed the baby. It's like,
No.
why would you ever place a baby in the care of some people who don't know how to
They're not even
feed a baby, which is the most basic thing there is.
like in this version.
They're three fairies that the king literally met on the day that this happened. He
And
doesn't
he
know
refers
them.
to them as idiots.
They're disturbing looking too.
It
When
also
they're
makes
when they're in
There's some
CGI
serious
fairy
uncanny
form,
valley shit going on there.
ugh.
Nailed it.
But
It's
yes,
also problematic because, like, in this version, they hide her so that, like, Maleficent can't find her because they feel like if Maleficent can't find her, then the curse won't happen. But in the Maleficent version, Maleficent is stalking a toddler.
which the fairies are so bad at their jobs, they never
never
notice
aware of.
that. She's
Which
just
it's
like,
weird that
"Oh,
they why put the baby in the cottage? Because clearly Maleficent knows where that cottage is. Literally, the second she's living there, the very first day, like there's Maleficent in the corner watching out.
Literally,
like, oh,
in a
I will
tree.
feed you with a
They keep
flower.
cutting to Maleficent sitting in a tree, and it's not like Maleficent. Like the fairies get small. Maleficent never gets small. She's always like 6'8" with the horns.
That's
Angelina
what I want
Jolie.
more of. Like, what the hell is she in this world? She doesn't fit in that world. Is she like? Is like one of her parents a fairy and one
No, I
human?
think she's just a fairy. She's just a different kind of fairy.
But
I
that's the
mean,
thing,
Yeah,
is
but
something else
no
you
other
see has
creature
other
in
things
that
like
has.
it.
Yeah, like no one has human qualities. They're all like, you know, CGI cartoonish things. She doesn't
you
fit.
make a good point, but I feel like that's the least of the things about this movie that
Yeah,
doesn't
that
make
is
any
true.
It's
fucking
just the fact
sense.
that the world building of this movie is terrible. Like because of the
There
fact
is no
that it's-
world
No,
building.
exactly.
They
Like you
do
would
that
think-
opening voiceover, and then they're like, "Now you can have at it."
Exactly. There's also that voiceover. Oh, that voiceover. That voiceover cheats so much. Whereas,
Oh my
like,
god, can I tell you my
Big
favorite
reveal
part of the
at end.
voiceover?
It's like they want to stick it to you, and it's like, yeah. What was the point of that?
It's just like,
My
well, like instead of showing you character development, the voiceover will just be like, they became friends.
Yeah,
Right.
basically. But my favorite part of the voiceover was when, so you know, I told you that like the movie kind of starts with this little boy like going to the fairy kingdom and trying to steal some ugly ass gemstones, and the voiceover is like, he came here to like steal gemstones, but he stole something even better. And I was like, oh, we're like cribbing from Winter's Tale now. That's fucking awesome.
Spoiler, it's her.
So,
It was. That's actually very funny. I hadn't thought of that. It is legit the same thing they say in Winter's Tale.
I
where he
know,
broke
but
into
that's like
the house.
the writing in this movie is so lazy. Like, the dialogue is all really clunky and, like, awful to listen to. Like,
it's like it was all written to fit into a trailer. It's like, you know, that moment where she's, like, looking out at Aurora and Maleficent's in the woods, and it's like, if I come out, you'll be scared.
Yeah.
And it's like every single scene plays like that. It's only, like, 3 or 4 exchanges, and then it just stops. That's it. Like, on to the next one.
And also, like, it's a movie that was written because it's so obvious that this was written with, you know, Sleeping Beauty as a template, because it's not really a story that makes any sense on its own. Like, it only makes sense insofar as you're like, oh, this has to happen because that's what happens in Sleeping Beauty.
Exactly.
Like, for example, like, there's a prince character who doesn't really have anything to do, but because the original Sleeping Beauty has a prince, this one also has to have a prince. And, like, even, like, from the beginning when we were talking about the curse, why is the curse so weirdly fucking nonsensical? Because that's the curse that was in the movie, and and we can't follow the rest of the Sleeping Beauty plot if it doesn't play out that way. Like, it was so exasperating. It's not really a movie in its own right at all.
No, the plot, like, the motivations of the characters don't generally make sense, and I mean, that's a huge problem. But my major issue is it makes Maleficent a pathetic person. Like, in Sleeping Beauty, she's evil, but she's interesting and mesmerizing, and she's ferocious
and
she
fabulous.
Power. Yeah, and it's like, I don't know if as a kid I ever really thought about why she was doing what she did. I assumed it was to screw with the kingdom because she's evil, and you can just accept that as a kid. But, like, in this, it doesn't feel like she's messing with the kingdom. It feels like she's messing specifically to screw up the king. But we have not established that the king loves his wife, that he particularly loves his kid. Like, we don't know who Stefan is other than a power-hungry jerk. So
we don't even know why he's power hungry. Like, one day he's just some little peasant boy who falls in love with Maleficent, and then the next day he's like, I'll do anything to be the next king.
You know what? The narration covers that by being like, they were friends and they were in love, but then it didn't work out because then he became an adult and he decided that he was ambitious. And it's like, that's like literally how they explain it in the movie. It's like a voiceover narration is like, and then he grew up and then he decided that he wanted to, I don't know, move on up in life. And it's just, like
it's effectively yada yada yada. It's he was a sweet little boy who, like, didn't know he was, like, stealing. He thought he was just taking a rock from this water. But then yada yada yada, he becomes a horrible, like, assaulting maniac. Like, oh, okay, how did we get there? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And, like, Maleficent has this terrible thing happen to her where he betrays her and takes her wings, which they go into in the trailers. I feel like we're okay to say that. He takes her wings, and she rightfully feels destroyed by this. Like, he took a part of her away. So I totally get her being angry. I totally get her wanting to start a war or something over it, because he is, after all, the king of the humans now, and she makes herself the queen of the fairies, because why not?
Humans. He's king of the soldiers. There's no humans in this movie.
Like, there's no, like, kingdom set up. It's very confusing. And, like, she basically makes herself the queen of the fairies in, like, one wordless scene that doesn't make any sense, and whatever. Again, it does. It looks like it's a trailer moment. Like, it doesn't look like a movie. It looks like a trailer moment. And then, so you would think, like, a war would make sense, but instead, what she does is effectively terrorism, where she, like, sweeps it. And this is the other thing. If she can build huge castles, if she can shapeshift things, which she does, why is what she came up with her plan? Like, her plan of like, messing with Aurora when she's 16 makes zero sense. And it's just, like, it makes...
Because they have a fairy tale, an original Disney movie to follow.
But that's the thing. It makes Maleficent seem pathetic, because you have her all of a sudden going from being this powerful witch and sorcerer and shapeshifter to being a woman who is forced to walk around everywhere looking annoyed continually. And,
why wouldn't she just, like, if she walked into the castle so easily during Aurora's party, why wouldn't she just go upstairs and take her wings back?
Right?
Then we wouldn't have had a need for this whole movie.
Oh my god.
Like, there's no, like, why wouldn't she try to get exacting revenge on him? There's no sense to it. And so instead she becomes this, like, it's almost like a Fatal Attraction thing, where it's like, if I can't have you, or if you're going to steal my wings, I'm going to destroy everything you love. And it's like, oh, great. That's not interesting. That's not fun for me. Like, this is not Wicked for Maleficent. You know what I mean? This doesn't give you an interesting new perspective on the character. It just makes her this exhausting, whiny woman who stalks a toddler and then learns a lesson. Like, it's just so tedious.
Nothing that anyone does makes sense. But the other thing that annoyed me is, so this is the first movie, I guess, by Robert Stromberg, who was a production designer on Alice in Wonderland and Oz the Great and Powerful, you know, the two other movies that are kind of like Maleficent. And it doesn't, I don't know, like, first of all, the movie doesn't look that good. It looks even less good, I think, than the other ones. Like, the one that we saw was so muddy and, like,
It
I don't
hurt that
know.
we saw it in 3D, I think.
It looks so it's the same like look as the other ones, but less good, and it feels less fresh because we've already seen this look so many times before.
I actually liked some of the creature design, which you can see on the big posters. There's all these neat little creatures, but my problem is they don't do anything. Outside of the fairies, all these creatures have no plot purpose at all. They're just set dressing. And
They
it
didn't
feels
look
like a big
real
waste.
though. There was too
No.
wide of a
look
spectrum in terms of like human features being integrated into characters, and other ones looking just like flat out cartoonish. Like the stick guys, I kind of liked because like they stood by Maleficent, they served a purpose, and they had like texture to them. Versus like the little frog creatures that throw mud. That looks like it came out of like a fully animated Pixar movie. It didn't work at all. And it, like the fairies, it's like with the fairies when they're in fairy form, the human face wasn't integrated into like the animated body, and it made the faces look almost like they were like floating.
Yeah.
It didn't look natural at all. It was very uncomfortable to watch.
Are the fairies shown in the trailers like close up? Because they're really weird looking. Like I'm wondering if
Creepy.
they are.
You mean
stupid. They're stupid too.
The three fairies.
Those
They
fairies
look
drove me
fucking
off
terrifying.
my freaking mind.
Yeah.
And like, it would have been one thing if they actually like had purpose or like were funny or something. They were just so annoyingly dumb.
I think the movie thinks that they're funny.
Like though was Davala, or I don't even know how you say his name.
Oh, the
Diaval.
Raven.
Diaval. But he was played by Sam Riley. He's the crow that she has from the first movie, but she shapes him to
Shift.
him into a man and a beast and anything she needs.
Why did she shapeshift him into a man?
So they could talk? I guess she doesn't speak crow.
She wanted a friend. Is that like a thing?
Exactly. I think that's the only reason that you ever see for her wanting to make him a man, because he's a crow. He likes being a crow.
And but like the reason she wanted him
like a
was
dog,
for
but
purposes to like scout and fly around for her and be her wings. So like what? Why would she be like, I'll turn you into a man crow?
That was the only character dynamic in the movie that made any sense to me, because it's just like a like Maleficent and her sidekick, and they've got like kind of like a funny, warm relationship that I thought was kind of cute. Like I could have seen them go on adventures.
He's very charming, and like the character was very noble, and it was easy to get behind what he wanted because he clearly cared. And that
he was like a funny, like sweet
Really
character.
This whole movie is based on like
he was like,
relationships and how much people love each
really
other.
When he's a man.
It's like all of Maleficent's shit is based off of the fact that like her heart was broken, and then it's based off of the fact that like everybody loves Aurora so much, but like you don't believe any of it, so you can't get behind anything anybody does, which makes the whole movie just like a big CGI spectacle.
Yeah. So I mean, unless you guys have a lot more to say, I think we should wrap up.
Mind your eyes. Angelina's cheekbones will like pop out your eye.
I wish they would though. Actually, the 3D's so bad. I wish that the like cheekbones actually protruded. That'd be interesting. Like the nose and Sacha Baron Cohen and Hugo. Just give me something. Like the 3D is a waste. There are moments in the movie that I think are pretty, but like Perri and I were talking last night, and she said she thinks it's a movie that has a lot of great stills, which is true. Like if you isolate stills, you'll be like, that's a pretty still, but it doesn't work as a movie. It feels like all the attention that should have gone into building the story and building character development and shaping performances went into set design.
This movie was made so Angelina Jolie could play Maleficent. That's the reason, and that's it. No other reason.
And she's not campy enough for it.
No.
Like it demands like a big like old school Betty Davis style performance, and like she's stone faced or screaming, and then there's the one scene she's fun in is the curse scene, because she's like smiling and really enjoying.
It should have had more satire and jokes in it. Those were the fun moments. It's like a lot of the times that I was laughing in this movie, I don't think I was supposed to be laughing. Like if I saw anyone else be like dragged around sleep style, I was going to die. And like every time
people in like a sleep that makes it seem like they're underwater and floating behind her. Like
you just tug them along.
Potter.
It's like an upside down like dog leash kind of.
It's like they're balloons or something. It's very weird.
They look like balloons. That's what Brenton Thwaites does the entire movie. It's the saddest thing.
It's like there's one part where she's delivering serious dialogue where she's like, "We may not make it out of here alive," and he is literally hovering behind her shoulder, being like,
But
Yeah,
like, if the
basically.
movie had a tone where that was supposed to be like funny, like, oh, what's this kid doing here? Like that's what this movie should have been. That could have been fun.
I will say one thing in the movie's favor. It is shorter than you think it will be. It's about 90 minutes, as opposed to like most of these like, glossy CG fancy
Epic 2.5-hour
epics,
movies.
which are like 2.5 hours. Yeah. So this one is at least, if you have to watch it, comfort yourself in the fact that it'll be over soon. Can
It's
you
not
guys
fun,
think of?
but it's short.
Yeah, I mean,
looking on the
I
bright
think it's
side.
pretty clear that none of us really like this movie or recommend it. But if you guys can come up with any reasons to recommend it, any ideas?
Meh.
I feel like Perry's might be It's Less Horrible Than Night Moves. Am I correct?
Yeah, no, it is. It's less horrible than Night Moves. I will give you
Okay.
that. It's more entertaining than that.
So you guys, it's short and it's less horrible than Night Moves. And
There we
that's
go.
a word
Cool
that you
quote
can use
right
on the
there.
poster.
There you
Yeah.
go. I would say if you're looking for cosplay inspiration, wait until it comes out on DVD and watch it with the sound off.
Ouch.
Pretty much.
came up way
I think
harsher
that it would be better with the sound off.
Boy, on that note, that is all the time we have for this week. But if you like what you saw here today, follow along, popcornprosecco.com. We're on Twitter. Our handle is popcornprosecco. And, of course, subscribe to this YouTube channel, Popcorn Prosecco. You can catch all three of us all over the web on Twitter. So, Angie, where can everyone find you?
You can find my writing on slashfilm.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AJHAN.
Kristy?
You can find me on Twitter at Kristy Puchko, KRISTYPUCHKO, and you can check out highlights of my writing on decadentcriminals.com.
You can catch all my writing linked to littlemisscritical.com, and my Twitter handle is Nemiroff. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next week.